My son and his wife asked me to leave my house on a Tuesday over tea I had made for them. They had called ahead. My son phoned on the Sunday to say they would like to come by, that there was something they wanted to talk through with me properly. He said it warmly. I made a nice lunch. They arrived with gifts: a box of fruit, a cake, and a scarf for me, wrapped, which I still have. Hold that in your mind for a moment. They brought me a present, and then they asked me to give them my home. They were very reasonable about it. That is the part I keep coming back to. Her family was moving from another city. Her parents, her brother and his wife, and their little boy. 5 people who needed somewhere to live, and here was this house with all these rooms and me in it. Just me. My daughter-in-law said it kindly. You're only one person, Ma. You don't need all this space. And my son, sitting beside her, nodded and said he thought it made a lot of sense. I was taken aback. I will not pretend otherwise. But I have spent a life not letting my face do my talking for me, and I did not start that morning. I kept still. I poured the tea. I want to tell you about the 30 years that came before that sentence, because they were right that I was only one person. They were wrong about what that had cost. This is that story. I bought that house with my husband the year our son was born. We were not wealthy. We chose it because it was near a school and because the light came into the kitchen in the mornings. That was my husband's reason. He said a kitchen should get the morning. He died when our son was 6. Something in his chest that the doctors found too late. I will not spend long on that here, because this is not that story, but you should know it because everything after grew out of it. One evening, there were 2 of us carrying the house. The next morning, there was 1. People told me to sell it, that it was too much for a woman on her own, that I would be more sensible somewhere small. Much the same words my son would use on me all those years later. I noticed that when the day came. I did not sell it. It was the house my son knew. It was the one thing that had not changed for him when everything else had, and I decided that as long as I could hold on to it, I would. So I worked. I took the early shift because it paid a little more. I left before he woke, and I was back before dark, and on the days that was not possible, a neighbor sat with him until I was. I am not telling you this so you will think I was a saint. Plenty of women did what I did and were never thanked for it either. I am telling you so the rest makes sense. I did the day job for the wage, and I took in sewing at night for the rest. My son grew up to the sound of that machine. When he was small, he used to say he could not sleep without it. Every school fee I paid, every uniform, every pair of shoes he grew out of in a season. When he was clever enough for university, I found the money for that too, and I did not let him see how. By the time he had his degree, my back had made its own opinion known, and I moved to steadier work. Lighter, duller, no more rising before the sun. I did not mind. The hard part was behind me, or so I believed. He was launched. That was the whole point of the sewing machine. He graduated on a hot day in summer. He had a good job within the year and a better one after that. He did well. And I want to be fair and say so plainly. My son is not a stupid man or a lazy one. He worked. When he married, I was glad. She was capable and quick, and she knew what she wanted. And at the time, I thought those were good things for him to have beside him. I paid for the wedding. It did not occur to me not to. After the wedding, the visits grew further apart. I understood some of it. A new marriage takes all the air in a room for a while, but it went past that and kept going. The calls got shorter, then they became my calls, made by me and answered quickly. My son would say he would come by at the weekend, and then the weekend would be full, and then it would be the next one. His wife stopped coming almost entirely. When I did see her, she was pleasant in the way you are pleasant to someone you have already filed away. There was a grandson by then, a little boy. In the first year or two, they brought him on Sundays, and I kept a drawer for him, small things, a toy, a spare pair of shoes, so there would always be something of his in the house. The Sundays thinned the way everything else did. The drawer stayed full, and the boy came less. I did not say anything about that either. You do not want to be the mother who counts the visits out loud. But I counted them. Of course I counted them. There was a festival dinner I cooked for the three of us and the boy. I started in the morning. They canceled in the afternoon, something about her family, and I sat down that evening in front of enough food for a household, ate a little of it, and put the rest away. I told myself he was building a life, and that a mother who has done her job well should expect to be needed less, not more. I believed that. It made the years easier, right up until the Tuesday it stopped being true. They had not come only to raise an idea. I understood that slowly, over the course of the morning, the way you understand cold water once you are already in it. My daughter-in-law took a folded paper from her bag and turned it to face me. It was a rental. A one-bedroom flat across town, near nothing in particular. She had written the monthly rent across the top in blue pen, in her own hand. She had already chosen it. She had looked at the flat, decided it would do for me, and written down the number before she ever sat at my table next to the cake they had brought. Then she told me, warmly, that I was not to worry about the move. She had already arranged some of it. She had asked about having the curtains hung before I arrived, and a few things put in the cupboards so I could settle in without any fuss. She had thought about my settling in. She had thought about the curtains. She had not thought, at any point, to ask whether I wanted to go. "It's a good area for someone on their own," she said. "Quiet. And this house is really more for a family, isn't it?" She talked about her brother's boy needing a garden. She talked about the schools nearby being good. She had thought about the schools. She had decided which room would be the children's. She had not decided anything at all about me, beyond the fact of my leaving. The house was in my name. Of everything they had worked out that morning, that was the one line neither of them had thought to read. This is the part I have turned over the most because I want to be fair about it. My daughter-in-law did the talking, but she was not the one who broke something that morning. My son sat beside her the whole time, and he did not stop it. When she finished, he took over, gently, in the voice of a man who has chosen a side and would rather you did not make him admit it. He said it made sense. He said the house was big. He said I would be more comfortable with less to look after, and that her family had nowhere else, and that we were the ones with room. We. He said we, and he meant the two of them, and the room he was giving away was mine. I had sat at a sewing machine until my back gave out, so that he would never have to add up a bill in his head the way I did every night of his childhood. And there he was in my kitchen with a cake he had brought me, asking me to be reasonable about my own front door. That was the moment. Not her paper, not her flat with the rent written on top. My son's face, agreeing with her. I did not argue. This is the thing people find hardest to believe when I tell it. I did not shout, I did not weep, I did not tell them what they owed me. I have watched women my age make that speech, and I have watched it change nothing, because a person who needs to hear it has already stopped listening long before you begin. I said I would think about it. I said it kindly, I saw them out, and I let them believe the morning had gone the way they planned. Then I sat in my quiet kitchen and I did think about it, though not about the thing they wanted. I thought about the next 20 years, about who would drive me to the hospital when it came to that, about whose spare room I would be in when I could not manage the stairs, about whether the two people who had just asked me to move into one room across town would be there at all on the day it was not convenient. I already knew the answer. The years since his wedding had taught it to me, one unmade weekend at a time. So I stopped waiting to be looked after. That was the whole decision, and I made it that night, quietly, at my own table. The next week, I had the house valued. I did it while they were not watching, which was easy because they were not watching. They had made their plans about my house without me in the room. I made mine the same way. I chose the buyer myself, a young couple with a small child, the way my husband and I had been once. I signed the papers on a Thursday morning. The house whose future everyone had already settled was sold before either of them knew it was for sale. With the money, I bought a flat. Smaller than the house, yes. She had been right about that much. But I chose it, not her. It is a modern place I do not have to climb stairs to reach, with a lift that works and a clinic 5 minutes walk from the door. There is a hospital 2 stops away. There are shops I can carry my own bags home from. I chose it the way you choose a place when you have finally decided to be the person you are going to look after. I told them after it was done. I asked the 2 of them to meet me, and I told them over a meal I paid for because I wanted it finished cleanly, and I wanted to be the one who was calm. I said the house was sold. I said I had bought somewhere that suited me, and that they should make their own arrangements for her family, because the room they had been counting on was no longer mine to give, and had never, in fact, been theirs. My daughter-in-law was angry. She said I had done it out of spite. I let her think that, because the truth was worse for her and I saw no reason to hand it over. It was not spite. Spite would have meant they still had that much of a hold on me. My son did not say very much. For a moment, he looked like the boy who could not sleep without the sound of the machine. Then he looked like a man working out what he had just lost, which I think was more than the house, though it will take him some years to understand what. I paid the bill. I put on my coat. I told them I hoped her family found somewhere good, and I meant it, because they were not my quarrel. Then I went home. To my home. The new one. My husband chose our first house for the morning light in the kitchen. I remembered that when I was looking at flats, and I did not choose this one for its light. I chose it for the lift and the clinic and the shops, for all the sensible reasons a person on her own should choose things. But the light comes in anyway, in the mornings, the way it used to in the old kitchen before any of the rest of it. I did not plan that. It was a kindness the flat did me on its own. I make tea for one, and I drink it while it is still hot, which in all those years of rushin' out before it was light, I almost never did. I still see the boy, my grandson. I made that plain to my son, that the door was open to the child, whatever else had changed, because none of it was the child's doing. But I go to them now. I do not wait to be fetched. They wanted the house because it had rooms enough for a family. They forgot that I was the one who made it a home, and that a home leaves with the person who kept it. She was right that I was only one person. She had simply never understood how much one person can be. Before you go, I would like to know what you think, and I read every comment when a video first goes up. They came with gifts and asked me to move into one room so her family could have my house. I sold it and looked after myself instead. Would you have told your son first and given him the chance to make it right, or done exactly what I did, and let the finished thing speak for you? And if this is the kind of story you came here for, the ones people don't usually say out loud, subscribe. There is a new one every week.